Hey y'all, welcome to Simply Blossom and Tarot. I'm Gigi and this is my channel. I haven't did one of these like voice note I don't know post or whatever, but I really felt like in a very long time, and I'm thankful for this feeling. Um I haven't really felt that push to be like, you have to get on there, you have to say this, you have to put that message out. That is how I feel with this message. Hopefully you can hear me. Your girl has COVID-19. Okay, so this is my first show and rodeo with this, and I farewell. Thank the Lord. Thank the Most High. Um, and I have some energy or whatever, but I was like, first of all, I am terrified to use any of my makeup products. I'm like, I don't want to contaminate it. I don't want to get recontaminated once I get through this. Um, so I wanted to go set up in my office and be cute and everything, but right now I am not, baby. I got a little bun in my hair. Um, and I'm just cozy in my room or whatever. You can probably kind of hear it in my voice. But oh man, this is crazy. Everything happens for a reason, so I'm just rocking with it. But I got on here because I wanted to talk about and address the mass spiritual psychosis that's going on Christian Talk or Rapture TikTok, all of that. As you guys know, on my platform, whether you follow me on Instagram or here, this is a message that I have repeatedly talked about because I can see and spot the signs when like a spiritual psychosis is on the way. Now, I was looking at this and I was just like, first of all, my heart breaks. I'm a spiritual girly. I have always been a spiritual girly. And what I mean by spiritual girly is that I have always had a level of curiosity when it comes to the great all, like how this happened, why are we here, the cosmos, and so I have always been attracted to like the study of religion and things like that. I am so grateful and so thankful for my mother and that she exposed us to different religions growing up. So I never created a bias toward any type of like religion, what people practice, people's spiritual path, or whatever. But for me, my understanding is that because I grew up Christian, we're Creole, okay, so it's a big mix up. Um, I was baptized AME. That is like, that's a black church, baby. And that's from my dad's side. My mother, she grew up Catholic, right? So my grandmother was like a devout, praying Catholic woman. I also am very fond of, I don't know, fond of, but I love my family's Catholic church, which is the first black Catholic church in the area that I'm in. And I respect like I guess you could say the preaching or the teaching of the bishop that's there. I mean, of the deacon that's there. And I have seen the beauty in God in Catholicism. I've seen the beauty of God in Christianity. I've seen the beauty in God in Islam. What I haven't really like explored is Jewish culture, I guess, a little bit. I do have like an honorary aunt who is Jewish, and I remember she reached out to me one time and wanted me to explore that, but I was like super young at the time. I was like blogging and like starting my website or whatever, and it was like such a good idea. She was like, "Hey, how about you write about like the experience of exploring Judaism and all that. And I couldn't do it at the time for some reason, but that was a good idea. Um, yeah, so I'm happy that my mom, Sagittarius rising, um, taught us to be open to different religions. But for me, this is my thing. I love God. I love God. So, like, the way that I see God is there's a curiosity, and I don't really know how to put in words, like, my method of. I think it's like through lived experience, but my method of identifying what's true for me, or like what path is for me. And I enjoy that process. I enjoy that path of just seeking God, you know? And so I don't put too many expectations on it, and I don't put too many binders on it, or too many restrictions, you know? I believe that God is love, and I believe that every religion that I have looked into, studied, I went to college. I literally took philosophy of religion, where we talked about multiple religions that some I didn't even I've never heard of, Sufism, young Earth creationists, Mormonism. Like, we went through so many different religions, and from start to finish. And I talk about this a lot, but this class made like such an impact for me. Um, the only question that we had for the whole semester was, what is the right path? What is the true path? What is the right path? So we went, and we even researched one lady. I cannot think of her name, but she like created her own religion, and she believed her own religion, you know. And we argued, and we talked about things, and we had an open debate, and we had an open discussion, and sometimes it would get heated, and sometimes, like, I don't know, within that class, I think we all came out as better human beings, as more loving human beings. And then I always laugh at this, but like the last week of class, our professor came in, and he was first of all, he was Catholic, but I think he was a bishop. Yeah, within the Catholic Church, and he came in like decked out in his whole gear, and then he was like, "I'm here to tell you like what I think is the path is this." But he was like, the whole purpose of this class was to show like the different perspectives, the different experiences, and stuff like that, right? Spiritual experiences and what people choose. But I wanted to talk about this because it's so sad and heartbreaking, and I almost went through something, that it wasn't to that extent of like the rapture, all of that. I was watching a very popular pastor on YouTube or whatever, like, you know, watching church on Sunday, and he was talking about, all of a sudden he was talking about tarot readers and witches and like all of this stuff or whatever, right? And y'all, I got so triggered. I was like, oh my god, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, and da 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 da, right? And you have to pay attention, because this is how I worked through it, and this is how I can identify spiritual psychosis, right? And it's not only that, it's not only with religion, it can happen on the side of spirituality. Like, you have people who believe in twin flames to the point to where they're stalking people, and it's outside of reality. That this, you know, you see this person and you think that, you know, this is the love of your life because they looked at you, and, you know, oh, I could see it in their eyes. No. And I talk about that on my channel. And even when doing love readings and things of that nature, I've turned around people for abusing readings. This is not about money. This is not about money. This is about healing. This is about getting to the bottom, seeking the truth. You know, man, I've had to turn away some people because I can tell that, like, hey, you know, you're trying to abuse this, my time, my energy, my gift, what it is that I do. And I don't want to be clumped up, you know, in this, I don't know, unsettled, or I don't want to be clumped up in this delusion of, you thinking that this person is this and that and that and the third. I don't want to be clumped up in that, you know. And I talk about on my channel, can you reach out to them? Can you have a conversation with them? You know, are the channels of communication open? Because there's a lot of readings on here that talk about no contact readings. So the thing is, like, you have to be able to stay grounded, but also, you know, stay grounded, be able to be focused on what's going on within your reality. You know what I mean? And you have to be able to have these open conversations with people to see where they are. Are those feelings there? You know what I mean? But that's just one way. There's another guy who he think he's Merlin. He think he is a reincarnated Merlin. There's another one who think he's a reincarnated Jonah and the whale. There was another what's it called? The Hood Healer. I used to follow her a lot. And she does have like really good tips on like healing modalities and cleansing baths and things of that nature. But once I started to identify that she was pushing a certain political agenda, and you know, and the way that was communicated in the manner, screaming, yelling, you know, all of those things, like, you have to be able to use your spiritual discernment no matter which side of the token you're on. If it's religion, I've walked out of churches because all they're doing up there is talking about the $1 million this, $1 million that, and you know, not to be funny or anything, but just very gluttonous to the point where, like, I'm looking at you and, sir, the back of your suit is like splitting in half, because you literally, like, you're not talking about gluttony as a sin, right? You're not talking about you in here prosperity preaching, and you trying to get people money, and people are really trying to seek and have a connection with God. I haven't really been inside the black church for a while. I only have one church that I go to, and I just found a pastor online, but I have to look. He's actually based in New York. The other one is based in California, but that one is a more spiritual based church, and that's what I basically what I'm more connected to is spirituality. But basically for me, I believe that, like, God is love. I believe in the way that Jesus lived his life, and that's what I connect with, right? All of the rules and all, but there's also, you also have to have, like, I have an inner understanding, though. Like, I have an inner compass and an inner understanding to know that, like, the 7 deadly sins is real, right? You know, if you are a person who falls into lust, like, that can lead to illness, disease, sickness, and other issues. Avarice, greed, that, you know, that can lead to hurting other people, disparaging other people, making other people suffering while you are living in a lap of luxury, right? Lying, cheating, committing adultery, jealousy, envy. We've seen the real life ills that jealousy and envy can cause. To be jealous of somebody, to be envious of someone. So for me, I also understand that vibration is a real thing. You know, a lot of people, especially in the religious community, they like to say that, oh, you know, I don't say vibration, and vibration is scientifically proven. And I think that we are where we are as a collective, as a nation, because people want to throw out the experts. They want to throw out science. They want to throw out the intellect behind it, right? And then that is where you lose your footing. That is where you lose your grounding. Then everybody's all willy-nilly. This is what's true. This is what's true. There is a truth here. And truth is real. Okay? Because God is real. God is real and truth is real. And God is love. God is justice. And God is truth. And if you are seeking God, whatever it is that you are seeking or looking after or whatever, there will be a point, right? There will be a point on that journey where the truth shows itself. And that in itself shows you that God is loving, that God sees you, that God hears you. The truth is going to come out no matter what. Whatever is done in the dark will come out in the light. Okay? Whatever is being deceived, whatever is being deceptive, their face will be shown. Things will come out to the light. So, it's just, man, there's so many things that that could be covered like in this video. But I saw, the people on Rapture say they really do love God. Like, they really do love God, and they, and they're really trying to seek him. But the Bible does tell you that humans are deceitful. He tells you about that the human heart, what the human heart is like the desires of a human heart, right? So you have to really, really use spiritual discernment. You have to stay grounded. But this is what I really, really want to say, okay? Because this is what I found in my journey, right? So I was watching the pastor, right? And he was talking about tarot cards and stuff, whatever. So I got fearful and was like, okay, I'm not going to do it. Throughout, when I tell y'all, I had dead stock tarot cards, meaning I had a tarot deck that was worth $400. $400. Threw it out. Threw it away. Threw every single crystal away. And I live with family, right? And it's funny because I felt the energetic shift, like, in the house, from not having, like the energy was very, I don't know, like I was saying earlier, like, vibration is real. Vibration is the thing, right? So, because I can pivot. Okay, well, I'll stop and I'll talk about that first. Vibration is very real, and a lot of people want to skirt science and all this stuff and the experts and all that. Vibration is real. Every single thing, if you sit where you are in your room, every single thing that you're looking at, solid, liquid, or gas, it is vibrating at a certain frequency, okay? You are vibrating at a certain frequency. When you are in the energy of joy and happiness and love, that is a high vibration. When you are in the energy of despair, depression, that is low, or even when you're under the weather, your energetic being isn't performing at its highest, right? So, what I've identified in life, because for me, I'm just on a path to finding what's true for me. I know that God exists. I know that God is real. I know that energy exists. I know that the spiritual element of life is real, right? But I also know that you can't get to a point where you discount one or the other, okay? You can't get to the point to where you discount the physical life, and then you also can't discount the spiritual life, because you need faith. You need hope to be able to go through the hardships and challenges that having a very human experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. Humans, we are limited. We feel pain. You know what I mean? We have weaknesses. We're flawed. We're not perfect, right? So when we go through things, we use God as a rock to have faith, to have hope, to keep looking, right? But we can't discount one or the other. You get too spiritual, and then you can start to have like mental illness, being unrooted, ungrounded. And in the spiritual, within spirituality, we talk about the chakra system. That's the root chakra. Feeling ungrounded. That means I don't know who I am right now. I don't believe in myself. I'm having issues. I'm having issues with confidence. I'm having issues with making money, things of that nature. I'm having issues with self-confidence. And so everything starts with the root, like a tree. Everything starts with the root. And that's why it's important to stay connected to who we are and where we come from. If you are from the African diaspora, if you are Asian, if you are Middle Eastern, whatever it is that you are, where you come from and the traditions and the foods and whatever, those things, they help root you and ground you and give you a sense of who you are and know where you come from and your ancestors and all of that, right? So now this is the part, because when you get into religion, they tell you that you need to walk away from all of that. Okay? Well, when you walk away from all of that, that's when people, when you go through the psychosis or whatever, and then after that, there becomes an extreme. And that's when I can tell, right? That's when I can tell. And when I had left spirituality throughout all of my tarot cards and like all of these things, throughout all of my crystals, all this stuff. I was like in my Bible, nonstop, in my Bible, watching church, in my whatever. And when that happens, now you're becoming extreme. Then there's also a level of, it just depends on where you are, but then there's a level of, because spiritually, I do believe that there is spiritual warfare, right? But you start to go into an energy of fear. And this is where people get it wrong. Because even as a believer and even as a Christian, in the Bible, if I'm not mistaken, it's written 365 times, do not fear. Do not fear. Do not worry. Do not fear. Do not worry. I know that is something that God was serious about and is serious about. He does not want us fearful, and that's because God knows what happens when you live in fear. Okay, you begin to get limited and stunted and lost and riddled with, like, fear creates paralysis where you just get stopped, and then you start, and fear also creates biases, right? You don't praise like me. You don't look like me. You don't sound like me. I fear you because you don't sound like me. I fear you because you don't look like me. I fear you because your tools, mediums, methods, and modalities doesn't go within the labels that I view as pure, or that I view as righteous, or that I view as this. And that is when we become into the vibration of dysfunction, of division, war. Okay? It's divisive. God is love and God is unity. So you have to be able to identify when you're falling under certain guises and certain biases. And for me, like, I'm just going about life. Like, I haven't put all this pressure. I know that God created me. And I know that God is real. Right? And I know that there's not one tool that I use, whether it's astrology or tarot or whatever, right? There's not one tool that I use that I put before God. Everything that I'm doing in tandem and in ritual, with setting intentions with the Most High, with God. And I feel that God can recognize that, right? Now, there are some people who use tarot and certain methods and whatever, but the thing is that whatever your energy is, so if it is a person who is filled with hate, who's filled with racism, who is filled with bigotry, who is filled with sexism, who is filled with all of these things, right? And they buy a deck, or they get a hold of a Bible, right? Because the Bible is a tool as well. Just like a deck, just like herbs, just like, whatever, right? So, it depends on people's energetic vibration. And then you bring something in your home, right? And it takes on the energy of your home, takes on your energy. And that is the energy in which it performs through. That's just what it is. That's why they say, when you go thrifting, don't go and buy somebody's furniture and bring it in your home. Because if you don't know how to cleanse that energy, and that's when we get into spiritual warfare and all of that. But that is scientifically proven. Through frequency, through vibration. It's a real thing. And so when we're talking about like spiritual psychosis and all these things, you have to point out what is real and what is not, because you lose your footing and you feel lost and you feel ungrounded, right? And that's how I felt when I was like, I'm not being spiritual, I'm throwing out all my tarot cards, I'm going da 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 da, whatever, started, all this, I felt the most ungrounded I had ever felt in my life. I felt like I was more emotional, that I was more emotional, and I just felt like something was off, you know? And so, but I had to go through that experience though, because I had to find out, what my method of praise or what my method of acknowledging God is and what works for me. And I thought to myself, I said, something that makes me feel totally ungrounded, okay, all over the place, something that has ignited fear within me when God tells us not to fear. I started to sit down and think, this is not what God wants for me. This is not what God wants for me. So for me personally, I do believe that the Bible has a lot of truth in it. And the reason why I know it is because I have lived to see certain things become true. Like, I've seen people who did not honor their parents go into ruination, right? I've seen people who, when it comes to cheating and adultery and stuff like that, they how they gained them is how they lost them, right? You dealing with somebody else's husband, and then you with him, and then he go off, and that's how you lose him. And that's the old saying. That's what elders say. You gain them you lose them how you gain them. So there's a lot of things that I've come to the culmination of being a 30-odd something woman. Even when it comes to marriage, when it comes to children, when it comes to, like, I'm really on a journey of knowing myself. Knowing thyself before I bring anybody else into the mix. Before I bring a man into the mix, before I bring a child into the mix, I got to be grounded within myself. There are goals and things that I want for myself, and that's what I'm focused on, right? And also, not discounting the fact that, fate is fate, God is God, and whatever he has written for me is what I want for myself. That's another thing with spiritual psychosis, is trying to understand God. Like, we don't have the brain capacity. We don't. That's why we talk about having a daily devotional, right? So you wake up, you read a little scripture or whatever, you journal about it, you do your prayer journal, your gratitude journal, whatever, you go on about your day, right? You pray. Well, I know I pray before I leave. I ask God for traveling grace. That's something that I grew up on. That's something that I still do. And that's the thing, and I also want to hit on the topic that sometimes, like, I feel like I'm kind of like an anomaly, or like I'm like a blip in the system, the blip in the universe, the cosmos, whatever. Because I really sit in the middle. I can sit and talk to somebody about religion and level with them there, and I can sit and talk to somebody through spirituality, or if we're talking about through symbolism, if we're talking about it in an intellectual, scientific way, like however way, So, but I think that's because of, like, I don't know, y'all. And I tell y'all on here, I don't know what to call myself. I don't know what I am. I don't like the word healer and stuff like that. I'm just on here. Like, I don't know what to call myself. But I have a genuine love, curiosity, and, like, I genuinely seek God. And I don't put any labels on it. And that's what I have found works for me, And, like, one day I went to Half Price Books, and I stood and I picked up the Bible on one side. I picked up the Bhagavad Gita on the other side, and I picked up the the Quran. And I picked up the Quran. And then I read, like, Rumi poetry, which is like it's like mystic Islamic vibes, and a lot of the twin flame narrative comes from a lot of Rumi's work or whatever. But I'm an anomaly. So how people perceive me and take me in is different, because it's really off of their perspective and their like life experience or their spiritual experience. Because the religious folks, they're like, oh, you're a witch, like, oh, you're a witch. And spiritual people be like, well, I don't know if she witchy enough, like, because even in spirituality we have labels. You have a Wicca, you have voodoo, you have hoodoo, it's a lot. Okay, then you have the African religions. Italians have their own methods of reading. They also believe in the evil eye. The Turkish, like, and then and the Mexicans, and that's when I started to, like, on the spiritual side, I'm like, there are a lot of things that connect. There are a lot of things that connect that we do. There are a lot of foods that connect, like, cuisine and cultures and all these things. And so I just believe that, like, I'm really big on, like, I don't believe in damning other people's culture. Like, I am a neutral person. Like, I literally stand in the middle. Because I feel like everybody is seeking God in their own way. And the same God that created all of us with different tongues and languages and different skin colors, right? And that also created all of the birds, the different species. You stand outside and you go look at all the birds, or you go look at all of the different types of trees, mushrooms, like, I mean, anything, right? Flowers, plants. And this is full of unity, and it's full of diversity. There's a lot of differences, but it's all together. We're all here, right? And so that is how I think of God. Like, I'm like, it doesn't make sense though. Like, it doesn't make sense. And I mean, I could be wrong, right? And I was just joking with my mom and plus father. God, I don't like to say stepfather. He's very Christian. He's African. And we have these conversations. I'm around elders a lot. I have a lot of Capricorn placements, okay? So we were talking, and I was like, I don't believe in damning anybody else for their religion. I said, because we all don't know. We literally don't know. We have not gone up and came back. And there are stories about people who have gone to heaven and came back and all these things. But I think the next topic of conversation should be on another video. But your near death experiences, your dreams, your subconscious, and all of that is produced by your waking life and what you believe. Okay, so if you really do believe deep down that you see the white light and all this stuff, whatever, all that. But I think, well, it just depends though. It just depends. But a lot of people talk about a white light, and I think that light is God. That's just what it is. I think that God vibrates at such a high vibration that he is, how they say, like, oh, you travel by the speed of light, right? How powerful that is, how quick that is. I think that God is an intelligent being that vibrates the highest to the point to where, like, we'll disintegrate. You know what I mean? And, and that's God, and God is God alone, right? And I think that where we vibrate, how we understand him, like, it's kind of limited. But to be high vibrational is the closest to God. That's what I believe, right? And forgiveness is that. When you're a person who lacks forgiveness, what are you? You're angry. You're emotional, right? And not to say that, because being emotional is not a bad thing, but you're angry. You want revenge, and all that's low vibrational. That's what tanks the collective, right? So I see God as the most highest vibrating energy that there is. And I think that is connected to love, or is love. And that's pure, and that's light. Now, understanding that we are human and spiritual, there is a certain, like, that's why if you look at the life of Jesus, and people talk about hitting Christ consciousness and things of that nature, that's what they mean. That you activate the light within yourself, right? But I believe that, like, we're human. So, I feel like we do have a limit. You know, God is God. Like, we can't wrap our heads around everything that God is trying to do. And when we're trying to like break down the rapture, also the rapture, you have to research that, because that is not, you have to look into the Scoville Bible. You have to look into when it first popped out and who created it and all that stuff. Um, and you just got to really do your research. And that's why I say that, like, you can read the Bible, but if you really want to dig deep, you have to also look into history. You have to also look into theology, right? And that's why a lot of pastors, they have theology degrees, because they're sitting, they're studying, they're discussing these things, right? And that is why a pastor is supposed to lead a church, right? Because they're supposed to be like experts in what they believe in. But sadly, that's not what we're having right now, you know? Which has led people back to studying the Bible for themselves, right? But I think that also social media is thrown into this, and being very influenced by what we see, you know. And I have been talking about that on my channel. It could have been like 2 years ago, of how you have to practice spiritual discernment even in the online space, because what is going on within the online space also has energy behind it. That's why I left Facebook. I had got on Facebook and they were like literally showing people harming other people and unaliving people. I said, I'm not doing this. I had even reported it and they kept showing it. I said, oh no, you want to show me what you want to show me. So I got off of it. But that is traumatic. That is things that we're not supposed to be seeing. And that is, like in the Bible, it talks about you need to guard your eye gates, your ear gates, even your mouth gates, like who you let it, even your leg gates, okay? Who you let between your legs. Like, I do believe in living a discerning life. I'm a celibate woman. Okay, I'm a celibate woman. Like, I do believe, but I'm not like on this super religious kick, you know. And I'm not also trying to throw that on others and control others and damn others for not doing that. Because the thing is that, like, we're not God. And like I was saying, what I was trying to say, I was having a conversation with my stepdad and my mom, and I said, man, I don't believe in damning people and being super biased to other people's religions, because I said, what if, you know, you go up to the Lord and the Lord is Allah, right? Or the Lord is like, we don't know. And then I also have another theory of like, maybe God is God, but he's known by many different names. But again, I grew up Christian, so I think that there's also still like unlearning happening, relearning. But what I will say and what I know to be true, guys, things that entice fear, the QAnon conspiracies, that's why I had to get off the hood healer, because that's what she was talking about. The QAnon conspiracies, doomsday things, the power grids failing, needing to get ready for the end. And we had within the astrology community, she was very successful. She had a husband, she had children, and it was a blood moon coming, and she was saying, you have to pick your side, you have to pick your side, and all this stuff. She wrecked her car, unalived herself. Tried to unalive, what she did, she unalived her husband and one of her children, and, you know, by the grace of God, the other child made it. So that's why I'm so big on not listening to fear-based anything, ideology, fear-based whatever. These people are not God. Okay? These people are not God. And being human is simply you having a life that everything is not going to be perfect, you know? To be human is to suffer, right? We have these desires. You know, this is what I want, and then I don't get it. And I've also learned that. I'm happy that some of the things that I desired, I did not get, right? I've learned in my 30-something odd years to be slow. Okay, to take your time with getting to know people, to take your time with studying things that are new, to take your time in new environments, to use your spiritual discernment. Don't open up too soon. Don't trust too soon. And that might sound like trauma, but it's not. It's just being very discerning before going towards things, right? And then I also want to say that, this whole spiritual psychosis thing is happening in many different ways. Like celebrities like Chris Brown, who they think a fan thinks that he's talking to them, or and he's talked about that, like stalkers and things like that. Like I said, with the twin flame dynamic, people were stalking other people, getting what are those things called, protection orders put on them. So the thing is that, like, you have to guard your mind, and you can't take things like literal. Like, you have to be like literally, when I do my readings, I say, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Take what sounds like the message that you need. Like, if you were to watch a sermon, right, or if you were to watch a interview, and oh man, you know what, I really needed to hear that at that time, like that landed for me. And I feel like we know when things resonate with us, and we know when things don't resonate with us, and we know when we want it to, like, we're trying to make it make sense for us. And that is when you start to get off of path, when you're trying to make it make sense for you, right? And that is when it comes to I'm seeing the angel numbers. Just like people say, I saw the signs that the rapture was coming. On the spiritual side, everybody talks about angel numbers, and I seen this and I saw that, and then somebody was talking about this and that. But our brains are very sophisticated, and our brains will start to alert us when we are creating a pattern. And that's the thing. Our brain is very, very sophisticated, and then we have our spiritual beliefs, and then we tie things in or whatever. You got to stay grounded, and to be able to identify like a real sign, I guess, or a real like dream from God or whatever, you have to be you have to be uninfluenced, right? What you're taking in online, you will go to bed and dream about it. What you're reading all the time, you will go to bed and dream about it. And then you have somebody get online, I had a dream. And y'all know I've had dream messages and things, but it didn't pan out like how the other people's pan out. But that's what I'm saying. You have to be skilled in your gifts and understand when it's time to speak on things and when not. And what's a dream and what's a message from God and what's not. So you have to be at an even keel and uninfluenced, right? And you got to step away from, when I say the world, not literally, but like, you have to step away from being so influenced. And also you have to step away from how you want to make things, like, you want to make things fit you. And sometimes I think we don't realize when we're doing that, but I'm telling you, like, I've gone through that fear-based scare, so that is what now, and I tell people all the time, because these people will get on here and fear bait you and fearmonger you and take your money and go live in the lap of luxury. Okay? Whole time they're dealing with the mental illness. Whole time they're not holding themselves accountable. Right? But they're preaching that onto you. And then they're inducing the fear onto you. And I also believe that, but it's not going to happen. I think that people need to be, how do you say it? Maybe judicially or whatever. The court of law needs to step in on people online doing this to other people. There are people who have harmed their children. There are people who have sold their homes, their cars. Okay, I've had friends who got wrapped up in all that QAnon, Trump, TRUMP stuff. Developing high blood pressure, developing anxiety, schizophrenia. The voices and God is telling me this and all this stuff. Like, it's ungrounding people, and that is what you call trauma. It's what you call trauma. You are being traumatized through the information that you are letting into your eye gate, into your ear gate, and into your mind. And I always tell people, a mind is a terrible thing to waste, and you have to really, really guard it. But I think, like, the best advice is, like, to really stay balanced in life, if you are studying Islam, if you are studying Christianity, if you are studying the Bhagavad Gita, if you are studying Hinduism, if you are studying Sufism, if you are studying whatever you are studying, okay, and you have a genuine intention that you are seeking God and you're trying to find God, God knows that, okay? Do your daily devotional and let that be that. Do your journal, do your gratitude time and let that be that. Go work out. Go do the things that you enjoy. Go be with your man. Go be with your wife. Go be with your kids. Go create a career. Do whatever. Because the thing is that spirituality is a part of life. And also, though, whatever you are doing, make sure you are doing it with the right intention and justice and in truth. We know when we are stepping out of line. Okay? We know when we are lusting for somebody's husband. We know when we are telling somebody a damn lie. We know when we are living out our own desires. We know when we are falling into lust. We know when things is out of order. You know, when folks got like whatever, the porn addiction and all that. Folks know smoking too much, drinking too much, you know, eating too much. There is the whole point of religion is to keep us balanced, to not fall all the way off to the point to where like literally you are in hell, right? So if you have had sex and now you have some sort of disease, that is a form of hell, right? If you ate your way into some sort of disease, that is a form of hell. Okay? If you have deceit, lied, greed, that becomes a demon in itself. So you lie to this person about this and you do this contract, you steal this money, you do this, you do, and all of a sudden now the damn IRS looking for you, right? There are, and then even when it comes to jealousy, envy, and all of that stuff, you know, you do stupid things, you start, you know, whatever, you got eyeing somebody else's life, now all of a sudden you being a weirdo, and you done got clocked for being a weirdo, right, for wanting to be somebody else, versus accepting the person that God created you and made you, right? So there is, we are supposed to have a certain balance, you know. Oh, we can even talk about the 42 laws of Ma'at. A lot of people say that the 10 commandments came from there, right? But then they say the 10 commandments came from Moses. So there's so many things. So I just think that, I think God knows that we're seeking and that we're trying to be good, you know, and we're trying to help people, right? But you can't help folks too much. Learn that too. Codependency is real. Once you enable people and you don't let them go out and find the job for themselves, or they don't, you know, they want your money, but they don't want to stop smoking. They don't want to stop doing the things that keep them broke, right? But they want to live off your money, or they feel like, oh, I don't need a job, but they want the money from your job, right? So there are a lot of, I mean, life, that's why I'm grateful. Like, we're here. We're in the game. EA Sports. You know, we're in the game. We're here. God is giving us life. He's putting breath in our bodies, you know. Thank God, because baby, I got COVID right now. So, you know, he's giving us breath in our bodies. And I think that as long as we are genuinely seeking him, like, he sees us, you know. He sees us. And he also sees us when we're broken and we're in pain and when we just feel like, you know. And believe me, I do feel like when you are in that energy of being lost, you eventually find your way. You eventually reground and you find your way, but you have to take a break and you have to get back in with self and say, what do I need right now? Outside of all the religion that you just stuffed down your throat and that you just bogged down in your brain, okay? Out of all the damn influence and you done sucked up through TikTok, through YouTube, through everything, right? Come back into you. Take a break from all of it. And begin to seek God in that way. God, show me. God, heal me. Right? And in a real world way. Not in like, oh, the license plate's on the car. Oh, the number on the receipt. In a real way, God will begin to show up for you. And 9 times out of 10, how I have seen it is in like literally regular exchanges. Like, I remember I was in Ross and I started talking to this lady. And she was like, oh, I came down, and the reason why I talked to her was because her and her sister was yelling across each other. And Ross, and she came in and they were laughing or whatever. And I was like, oh man, y'all remind me of me and my sister. And we started talking and the lady said she was from a small town, literally like a mile away from my college town, which was a small town. And she said, I said, well, what y'all doing all the way down here? Right? I'm Southern. So I said, well, what y'all doing all the way down here? And she said, oh, we're here because my husband, I think he had got COVID or something. I can Her husband ended up being in the hospital. And I was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. And we started talking, and she told me, she said, you know what? She said, you brighten my day. She was like, I have just been so sad and so sorrowful because, my husband is in the hospital. And, she said, just to laugh with a stranger, just to talk with a stranger. That's what it's about. That is what it is about. How you come across somebody and you impact them and you bring light into their life. All of that other shit, I hate to be, and I don't want to call it shit, okay, but I'm deeming it as shit because it takes us away from doing that. It takes us away from shedding our light because it makes us feel like nothing. It makes us feel like we have crumbled away and we don't know who we are anymore. And so you do have to have a sense of self. You do have to have things that light you up and inspire you. And creativity and having that ability to be creative, it mimics God's energy of how he created us, how he created the moon, the stars, the fishes, the sea, the everything. That is a little part in us that we have. Like, that's our God spark. So whether it's you writing that book, whether it's you giving that speech, whether it's you painting that painting, dropping that film, whatever it is, dropping that podcast, drop it on them, because that is how we light the way. That is how we light the way. Okay. All of these rules, and I'm not trying to be biased. I'm not trying to be funny, but in my experience, church people are very harsh people. They are very critical people. They are, and that's what God literally tells you, don't judge. And they're walking around judging everybody and everything. Okay. So it's just what I can say to because I've seen it in the spirit, and this is common. I also don't want people to feel like, oh my God, like, like I really believe that psychosis can happen to anybody, especially in this information age or disinformation age. I've also been seeing that, like, with the evangelicalism and people are driven toward the emotional types of things, like literally, oh, I'm gonna go off and do an ayahuasca, right? Oh, I'm gonna go to this praise seminar or whatever. What do they call them? Dang it. Revival, and everybody's screaming and crying and hollering and all that. And I'm not trying to be funny or anything, but baby, God sees you. Even when you have a quiet prayer and you light a candle with it, or you have a quiet prayer and you light your incense. Or what I like to do is when I see people on the side of the road, they had a tire situation or a car wreck, I pray in that moment for them. Your walk and your praise is just it don't have to be all of that. And I'm not trying to say, because I can turn on some gospel and I will feel like I need to cry. But the energy that I'm feeling, we call it the Holy Spirit, but the energy that I'm feeling is gratitude. And that is the most important prayer that you can give to God is thank you. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a life and waking me up this morning. Thank you for my my health, right? Thank you for being in my right mind. Thank you for the roof over my head. Thank you. Thank you for the job, or thank you for the gifts and talents that you have given me so I can provide for myself and my family, right? Thank you for my man. Thank you for my husband. Thank you for my woman. Thank you for my wife, right? Thank you for my sister. Thank you for my brother. Thank you. Girl, I be thanking God for the plants in my garden. like the way that I am is just like, I'm like, look, grandma. But, I look at my garden and I think about God a lot. He's abundant. Like when you grow a garden, and I grow a lot of okra, right? You can pop open an okra, and it has like, I counted it. It had 31 seeds in it, and I was like, funny, like 31 seeds, right? And if I was to plant all 31 seeds in my backyard, I wouldn't be able to see literally the fence, any of my fences, right? So the abundance that God shows you just literally in a seed. And when they do talk about the mustard seed in the Bible, right? But how abundant and expansive and loving and giving a garden gives, right? But it also requires discipline, just like God, right? You got to water it. You got to position it the right way. You got to allow sun to get it, right? You got to clean it up, and you got to prune it. And sometimes we are in that pruning season and that cleaning up season in life. It is what it is, right? But yeah, God is a giving God. He's a loving God. He's an abundant God. He wants to see us flourish. He wants to see us grow, right? He wants us in a space and a position to where the love that is within us, right? The love that is within us has gone out and spilled over to where we can help and give and love on others. Where everybody can eat. Like poverty, that's demonic. And I'm not even trying to be funny, but there is so much abundance and resource on this earth that nobody should be going hungry. But what do we have? We have greed. So the thing is, like, just with, your walk with God, your walk with Holy Spirit, your walk with the Most High, whatever you want to call it. For me, I've learned to never, I don't go to extremes anymore. I've been on the Christian side, damning the spiritual side. I've been on the spiritual side, damning the Christian side, right? And then there's also division between groups on the spiritual side and on the religious side. Christians don't like Muslims, Christians think yoga is demonic, and it's crazy because yoga is actually a healing modality that can help ground you and get you back in your wellness bag. You know what I mean? So you can't damn everything and everybody, because you'd end up damning yourself. Because you can't utilize this, you can't utilize that. That's I think there's one religion where they say that they can't get a blood transfusion when they're in the hospital or something like that. And no shade, no tea, but it's just like your physicality is real. You are in a health crisis at this moment, But that is just this is my experience. This is my my spiritual journey up to this moment. Or I've learned to not fall into extremes. I've learned to love everybody. Literally LGBTQ plus community, trans community, all different type of cultures. Now what I don't deal with, and what I have a zero tolerance is for low vibrational activities, period. You're toxic, you're screaming, you're lying to me, you want to hurt me, you want to harm me, you're trying to gaslight me. And again, that's what that TikTok stuff was. That's gaslighting. That's spiritual gaslighting, right? And to be gaslit when you're in a relationship, a toxic relationship with somebody, right? The person is telling you this is your experience, and you're telling them, no, this is my experience. And then it ungrounds you. Anything that ungrounds you, confusion, right? The devil is the author of confusion. The devil, meaning low vibrational energy, is the author of confusion. Okay? That's it. We are here, mind, body, soul, spirit, and we have to man it all. If we don't pay attention to the body, we can fall into illness. If we don't pay attention to the mind, we don't guard the mind, we can fall into mental illness, emotional illness, right? If we don't guide the spirit, we can fall into spiritual illness when we're dealing with lust. But the thing is, even the Native Americans talk about the dark wolf and the white wolf, or the black wolf and the white wolf. We have a high self and a lower self. It is what it is. All religious talks about that. So basically, you have to come into equilibrium and balance within yourself. You can't be all the way high and mighty, because there's a lot of spiritual people who have egos. I'm big, I'm big and I'm tall. You little and you wrong. I'm right and you wrong. Right? Ego. You have to watch out for that. I'm looking down on you. I'm talking down on you. I know this. Da 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 da. That's another thing I've seen God. Now I don't want to say strike people down, but God has humbled people who get to that spiritual ego, and they gonna remind you. You see all these pastors cheating on their wife and all this stuff, and all these pastors getting checked, right? Because they getting out of line. We are all human, and we are all on the same. We're all on the same level, okay? And that's why when I saw all this stuff on Rapture TikTok, I said, "This is just so sad." This is just so sad because these people are really seeking God, and they want to have a connection, and they have they used to call it in church crazy faith. And if you have that much faith in something, and if you apply that faith to anything in your life, things, I'm talking in a real way, whether it's a book you want to get off the ground, a project you want to get off the ground, like that faith is a frequency, and it really does work. So it just broke my heart to see that. And and I had I recognized when what I was going through or whatever. I recognized it. I was like, oh no, this is not right, because I feel terrible. Like, I was so induced, like, in fear, and I was just like, I feel so ungrounded. And that's when I knew. I was like, oh no, this is not it. This is not for me. I feel far from God. I was like, I don't know what this is. I was like, no. So I have to self-correct. But we go on these journeys to self-correct, right? So that's what I'm saying. Don't fall into, I don't know. I have this ability to, like, say if I'm watching a love reading or whatever, like, I just have the ability to listen to it and keep going. Like, it's like watching a movie. Like, I'm not watching a movie and thinking that this is actually real life. You know what I mean? And it's hard to find, I don't know. I don't take in everything as, like, truth, or if somebody is just, like, up there talking, and other people can feel like, well, that's not what I felt or whatever, but, or they don't immediately just take this and be like, oh, this is what's true or whatever, right? But, like, people can say, like, oh, well, I did my homework, I did my research, da da da, but homework and research and how we are defining that is, like, different, because there could be a lot of, okay, this word translates into this, and this is the time that all these things. To me, research is a absolute, well, I don't want to say absolute, it's true. If something is not true, it is not true, right? And so you have to just keep that as, like, okay, well, that might be a possibility, that might be that, but I'm not gonna put all my eggs in one basket, but yeah, just keeping a balance. And and it's no shade or anything like that, but I've acknowledged it, with people who are super, super religious. I've acknowledged that something kind of feels a little off. Just with the way that they constantly pursue you, especially me being a tarot reader and all these things, they don't see how I can exist and that I love God. They think that that's demonic, that, you're tossed in hell. Same thing. It prevents them to see the humanity of a person who's trans, or LGBT, a gay person, or a bi person, right? And, or a sick person, or what, I don't know. Or a person who's in jail and stuff like that. And that is purity culture. I'm pure, you're not. That's a bias. You're not looking at people in terms of humanity. That's the same way as, like, how a man looks at a woman and lusts at her just sexually. He don't see her. That's another way to objectify somebody. I don't really see you, as, like, it's like you kind of look at them as, like, less than, like, sick, or something is wrong with you. You know what I mean? So, while it gives them a grandiose feeling ego, that I know better than you. And I think that's a lot. I think ego, a lot of, like, what was going on with their Rapture TikTok, a lot of them could not apologize. They could not fess up that I was deceived and I was wrong, you know. And there was one guy who I said, oh, well, he seems very apologetic. They went in the comments and said, no, this is like his fourth time doing this. And every time he does it, he comes on and he apologizes for it. And so basically they were like, well, he's a grifter or whatever. And he had people donating to him and all of this stuff. There was another guy asking for donations and to the GoFundMe and all this stuff. It's sick and sad that, you know, there are innocent people who are seeking God and trying to get closer, you know. But I swear God loves you. He loves you how you are. He loves you in your blackness. He loves you in your brownness. He loves you in whatever nationality that you are, okay? He loves you in whatever language that is on your tongue. He loves you in wherever square inch of the world that you are on. If you are genuinely seeking him and wanting to get to know him. He sees you know, the beauty in how you use the gifts that God has given you. You know, that is praise in itself. That is showing God, you know, I am in gratitude for you creating me, the being and person that I am, and the gifts that you have equipped me with. That is what this is about, y'all. And anything that takes you away from that and makes you feel less than is not of God, because God is expansive and he does not want to see you live in bondage, shackled down, feeling oppressed, feeling less than. And in the Bible, he said, Pharaoh, you're going to let my people go. And that is what people need to realize. Whether a person is black, white, Hispanic, LG, whatever, trans people been on this earth since the beginning of time, literally, okay? But the thing is just that God created us, and we do things that he may not like and he may not be proud of, and there is some very low vibrational behavior, you know, going on here on earth. But if you are here and, you know, you're trying to seek him and you're sparking hope and you're inspiring others and, you know, you're getting people excited about life, things that take people away from being excited about life, I feel that is of a lower vibration. And this is not to say that, like, oh, you know, things that are, you know, you taking drugs and it makes you feel euphoria and all this stuff. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about the light, when you feel ignited to operate in your gifts and your passions. You know what I'm saying? When you give other people hope, when just by you existing and doing what you're doing gives hope for another person to be able to do that. And the more that we can do that, the more we can expand and help other people. It's not always about preaching down to people. You know what I mean? It's not always, it's about, honestly, sometimes teaching and learning somebody a skill so they can not only eat for a day, but they can eat for a lifetime. You know what I mean? So it's about being in that energy of being like a cheerful giver and showing up, but like energetically, you know. But we know not to like fall into certain things. We know not to get up here and lie about stuff. We know that the truth ends up coming out to light, you know. We know not to go out here and do things that are just, you know, low vibrational, basically. Do things out of a lack mentality. A lack mentality is believing, or a lack mentality is an absence of believing. So when you believe that God ain't gonna help you, God don't have your back, God isn't covering you, and God isn't loving you, you start to do things that is low vibrational. Okay? And I don't play with the energy of like knocking people's lights out. Literally. When people are bullying others, when people are talking shit towards others, when people are making people feel less than, and, you know, I don't believe in that, because I believe that that induces like depression, that induces negative self-talk, that induces negative energy within a person. Okay? And that is when you can say that on a spiritual level, some people are working in alignment with lower vibrations. Because if you are trying to knock the lights out of me, literally, you're trying to knock the hope, you're trying to knock the faith out of me, you're trying to knock the inspiration out of me, you're trying to knock the truth out of me, you want me to forget who I am, you want me to forget knowledge of self, you want me lost, you want me crazy, you want me ungrounded. That is, some people are working on that's confusion. Some people are working on that and they don't know that. You know, even when you're in a relationship and somebody's gaslighting you and they're toxic and they're telling you you're not this and you won't ever be that. You know, people grow up in home environments and family environments like that. That is the energy that is not of God. But what is that we also have the option to say, no, that's not my story. No, that's not my narrative. No, you're not going to speak that over my life. No, that's okay. I have faith. You know, no, you're not going to make me feel fearful. No, you're not going to stop. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to stop my motion. You're not going to stop my motivation. So you have to be in that energy. And that's when you talk about prayer warrior and all that stuff. You know, that's when you talk about that. But anyway, I digress, child. I don't even know how long this thing is, but I have to get on here and talk about this because it's so disheartening. Like, I love my spiritual journey and my faith and all of that. And, you know, it's just a lot of unlearning. But fear, I'm telling you, that is not something that God wants for us. Okay? Fear, that was gross. Fear and hate-based narratives and divisive narratives, that is not what God wants for us. Period. Okay? That's what I know. Okay? And lies and deceit. God don't want us for that. And confusion. God don't want that for us. Okay? So that's what I got for y'all. Sending y'all love and light. Peace.